What up, tube? So this looks special right now because it is. It's like combining both of my worlds right now. Um, we're going to do a planter. Yeah. So just to kind of show you what's happening here, I've been doing some planting outside, some growing of things. And I got these little 4-inch pots from the store just recently to put some more plants in. But I had this one here that I did a few months back. See the colors on it. Just kind of striping down, just had some extra paints that I worked with. And you seal it on, the inside and at least the outside, especially. I think you do a coat of sealing inside also, if I remember correctly. But yeah, it's supposed to be a really good little method here. So we're going to try it again. Yeah, I'm going to try it again. And, maybe I'll be able to put some plants inside of there pretty soon. A little something for me and something for everyone else. If you're interested in the plants, stick around. Maybe I'll give a tour of the plant life outside at some point here. Um, I'm just going to put some white down here at this bottom area on top of this record. It's actually an old Ray Charles record for anyone keeping track. Um, it was pretty damaged when it came to me here, so especially on the other side more than this one. But yeah, I'm going to put some white down, more just to catch whatever drops down here. Because I'm just going to let colors flop and drop, and they're going to drop all over this here. So that's going to be the kind of goal per se. And yeah, let's just get cracking. I'm going to put some, this is actually like a green color here, and I'm just putting it on kind of as a base. Um, yeah, it's just going to be a base color there, so that when I start to add some of my other, vibrant tones, there's something for it to drop off of. So let's add some purple in because we like our purples here. Yeah, we like our purples. Okay. I don't think I'm getting any red out of that one. And this is a really good, hey, you're at the end of your paints. You need to do something with them. This is a really good little thing that you can do. Adds a little bit of color to the planters, like I said, and just gives you something new to try out there. This is like a metallic-y red. I remember more like a burgundy metallic type of color. And again, I'm just letting these things kind of drip down as they may. Um, Not necessarily forcing any of these colors out here, but we're just gonna let the color explosion happen as it must. I'd like to stay within color family if I can, but I know that it's going to be a bit difficult as I start to add things in, and especially because a lot of what I'm doing here is we're down to the ends. We're getting rid of some of these last colors here, so let's see what happens and get some explosions of color pops and everything. So yeah, we're going with it. What's happening lately in life outside and in the world today? And what's going on? A lot, I'm sure. Anyone keeping up? A lot's going on, but we do what we can each day to make our lives feel better, and add a little bit of joy and put a little bit of love out there. So yeah, that's the basics on my end. I don't know about anybody else, but that's how things are with me. Um, yeah, and it's something I even have to remind myself at times. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I had a really sort of weirdness. Um, I had a lot of good that went into this past weekend. You know, I actually had a 4-day weekend that I took for myself, and was able to use the time and worked on some art projects and did some things around the house, and you know just kind of fell into enjoyment with life again. And a lot of that, a lot of this that I do is based on, how do I want to say this nicely? It's based on burnout. Um, I was someone who, for years would burn the candle at every end possible. Both ends, make up a third end, great. It wasn't much for me to work 2 jobs and have, yes, some sort of a side gig, and have, things I'm selling online, and have, you know wasn't much for me to do all these things. And I reached this point, um, where it just started to become a lot, and I could feel it, you know, for over a decade. I remember actually, just having times where, all right, I'm going, and then I'd hit that day off, and I wouldn't be able to move, or I'm going, and then I'd physically just not be able to move, you know, not be able to get out of bed for a couple days, or you know, a lot of it I would queue up as back problems. Oh, my back's hurting, old injury, blah blah blah, or neck, because I've had a couple car accidents, and you know, as many of us have, I guess. So queued it up as that. Oh yeah, the car accidents are back, and I'm just injured. I queued a bit of it up as, oh well, I'm tired, and have exploited myself a good bit here doing things, and you know the constant busyness of life, of demands of work, of at that time I was still working in TV, so yeah, the constant busyness of having to have that TV schedule going, the constant busyness of you know having those sort of life challenges there. So get busy with it. And I didn't really put a lot of effort into, why am I burning out? Why am I you know, fading like this? Why am I feeling like this? It was just, hey, keep going. And that's what you're told. Hey, keep going. Dust yourself off. You know, no rest for the wicked, no rest for the weary. Let me see your work, 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 work. Yeah. And no one really thinks to rest. So, as I said, I was starting to get to this point of just mental and physical exhaustion. And it was probably about 2000, it was 2019 when I first decided to, kind of stop for a second and figure out sort of what might be going on. Um, I got into this idea of painting. And, many of you kind of know the story as it, pertained there. I got into painting, and the next day my job decided they weren't into me. I went home and said, "Oh, maybe I have more time to paint." The rest was history. So, and a lot of that was based on, "Hey, Derek, we feel you're burnt out." "Oh, really? Well, my therapist said so also." Fun times. So, as I said, I reached that point, and I just felt utterly burnt on life there. Um, this actually looks really chill. I like the blue, purple. I wish I could get like some more like I'm trying to find something that's a glowy type of color I can put on this here also. But I'll look for one of these to kind of take off here in a second. It's like I have like 4 ideas that I'm trying to do in this one little spot here. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I got to that point of just feeling exhausted and burnt out and mentally unable to continue. And, as I said, picked up the paintbrush and went from there. And um, painting opened a lot of doors for me that I previously felt may have been closed. So yeah, I got into it fully. That was like my thing. Um, and for a while of painting, I thought this was all I was going to do and all I was going to be able to do. I'd never be able to go back to working a regular job again. Um, of course, painting is kind of expensive. You do need to work somewhat, somewhere, somehow, in order to afford it. But yeah, there's also a thought of, yeah, I just can't really function in the normal aspect. So why don't I just try out this idea and concept of painting, and it'll be something I can do until I can function in society again. So yeah, that was me for a while, and by luck, by grace, by work, dedication, whatever we want to claim here, healing and blessings and everything else, I did return to the working world. Um, that return to Jacksonville is based on the idea that I would be going back in and I'm trying to put some gas inside of this butane, some butane gas inside of here, and I know I have gas in this thing, and so one of these, like, I swear I do it all the time beforehand, but there we go. I just wanted to do that, to get some of it on there, but oh, weird, because I want to do something with the patterning. It's not going to be a lot I can do with with the pot, but I want to do something at least with it. Give it some sort of look there, um, some sort of texture with the flowing. And I'm kind of curious also to see if I got any glow on this before I move it. Just curious, curiosity check. Mm-hmm. Oh wait, it's doesn't that look cool? That look really cool, right? Looks really cool. Does that look really cool to you? That looks really cool to me. I mean, I can't wait to really see the pattern on the record when I take it up in 10 seconds, but that does look really cool to me. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Oh, man. I wonder if I can do like a pause, take a picture, come back. No, no, no. Just keep going. Just keep going. Ooh, that looks really cool too. Hmm. I got to remember when I do this, though, that I need to. Um, I got a light over there in the corner I need to flip off. So, this is going to be fun. I think this is what I did last time was I put this guy here so that I could, when I do take the photos. And yeah, you can see like this little jar here, this little plastic guy here was basically the useful piece of the day. Um, yeah, as far as being able to move those. Okay, so now we got some stuff on our handsies. I'm gonna just move you out the way for 10 seconds because it's about to get a little messy up in here. Up in here. Oh, right, you're peeling off there. I wonder if I can put some more colors like right there in that center area. Mm-hmm. Me just dropping random things in. Wasn't I telling a story? Oh, I was telling a story about my burnout. Yeah, and I was really getting into like the burnout that I've recently been experiencing because yeah, I've been recently experiencing burnout. Sorry to say it. Sorry, Mom. I'm burnout again. Um, but yeah, I've been recently feeling the pressures of everything and feeling like there's a lot to be done and not a lot of time to do it. I had an instance or a situation actually, um, as I said, where it was feeling great going into the weekend, and then I hit Monday. Come Monday, not always all right. It's like because there's a different sort of flowery sort of thing in here, it just feels like it's different, I guess. I don't know. I'm like kind of in a weird sort of mood with this. open it up a little bit. Let's say, ah, ah. How are you looking? Oh, you look cool too. I wonder how you look with a bunch of black lights on. Um, but yeah, I just starting to feel burned out again. And for me, the burnout really intensified, over the past couple of weeks because, getting used to the time changes and everything. And, even though, like I said, I'm just doing the basic job and then coming home, it's a lot. And like I said, I had a 4-day weekend this past weekend, was feeling good. Went back into work on Tuesday, and within like 15 minutes, was feeling bad again. Um, doesn't help that I had a conversation with, you know, someone at work, which really wasn't a conversation. It was more of, kind of a one-sided conversation. They talk, and I'm expected to just say yes, sir, even though you're really not a sir, but whatever. Yeah, and it's just one of those things. Like, as I learn more about my brain with, everything, how can I manage? How can I cope? Um, learning to take deep breaths, learning to, let things go, learning to, you know, take something, if you have an angry moment, take that anger and, push it into something positive. If you have a sad moment, take that sadness and push it into something positive. Um, you know, seeing things from the other person's perspective. Maybe they're not really as bad as you want to claim them out to be, or maybe they are as bad, and you just need to know that. You know, but figuring out kind of what to do really with these people, what to do with people, and how to best work around them, work around the strengths and weaknesses we all have as individuals. Um, and just knowing that we're all humans. We're all God's children. We're all, individuals. We put our pants on, hopefully, one leg at a time. If we are putting pants on, with both legs in at a time, then show me that trick, because that would save me a lot of time in the morning. Woo! Can I do that with socks also? Like put both socks on at once? Come on. Show what you're doing. Show your work. So, you know, I have to remember that, guys, that, he's human too, even if he doesn't act like it always, he is. Just his basic thing was he wasn't getting emailed back fast enough. So, you know what? If it placates him, send him a little email back. Hey, I received your thing, or I'll get to this later, or you're boring me, or, I like to send little reaction emails, or, just whatever. I don't like talking. I've just decided, like, I don't like talking to people. It's, my thing now. Um, but it's just one of those things. As I say, I have to remind myself of all these things. Also, you know, again, this is why I do this. So practice is a prayer and it's a protest. Um, and much as I might want to protest, having to, check in every 30 seconds off of an email. All right, I need to, practice being, a good person and check in off that email at some point, just to placate people and pray that I do better, the next time. Uh, and I have to remind myself that, even if other people are, throwing shade and, making you feel bad and whatever, that, you have light, and whatever darkness that they may try to, shine at you, just remember you have light that's going to shine right back. your light's going to break through their darkness. Um, I can say that, after that conversation, yeah, we hadn't spoken much, but any communication between that person and I has been positive, and I was just like, hey, listen, I'll get back to you when I can. I got a lot going on, you know. That's the end of it, And if he comes back and wants to yell again, then I just have to remind him again, you know. I had a friend of mine, actually someone very close, my muse, who comes to me and tells me that, she doesn't understand how people can still use AI, which I don't understand. And it's like, well, I feel like I'm just speaking, to the choir. And it's like, yeah, that's how I feel about voting. Like I'm speaking to the choir, but, we still got to tell these people these things, cut back on your AI usage so we can have water, and go vote so that we can have, good leaders in office, and go make art so that you can, recover from burnout, and keep believing and trusting no matter how, you know, it may seem. Keep on remembering, light will break through darkness. Just keep on going, you know. Everybody's going to tell you that. If you're reading cards, your psych is going to tell you that. If you're, reading Bibles, there's verses for that. If, whatever, just keep going. You know, remember, light's going to break through darkness every time. Speaking of light, I need to clean this up and take my photos so that, you know, I get them done before light breaks through these windows. Until next time, folks, take care. Deuces.